What happens when excellence meets prejudice at 30,000 feet? One woman's journey from humiliation to heroism will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew about breaking barriers. Chapter 1. The Fall Before the Rise. Pack your bags and find the nearest cooking school. The training director's voice thundered across the hangar as he ripped the flight manual from Sophia Chen's grip. Her coffee cup crashed to the concrete floor, sending a dark stain across her crisp white uniform shirt. The X-90 Falcon is our most sophisticated aircraft, not a playground for kitchen enthusiasts. Cruel laughter erupted from the male trainees surrounding her. Someone's phone appeared, recording every second of her public humiliation. Maybe try flying a food processor instead. Another voice called out, sparking fresh waves of mockery. The director crumpled Sophia's application and tossed it toward an overflowing trash bin. Research proves that certain individuals lack the spatial reasoning and mental resilience required for advanced combat aviation. That's just scientific fact. As security personnel approached to escort her out, Sophia's fingers found the worn aviator wings hidden inside her jacket, her grandmother's legacy. The tarnished metal had survived countless missions over hostile territory during World War II. Her eyes, rather than brimming with tears, narrowed with icy determination. A slight smile played at the corners of her mouth, unsettling the director. They had just humiliated the wrong pilot. Sophia Chen had never been one to accept defeat gracefully. At 29, she occupied a modest apartment in Seattle, Washington, with panoramic views of aircraft ascending from the nearby Boeing field. Each dawn brought the ritual of watching jets pierce the cloud layer while she sipped her morning coffee, envisioning herself commanding those same controls. A former Navy engineer with a master's degree in aeronautical engineering from Stanford, Sophia had descended from a distinguished military lineage spanning 5 generations. Her grandmother had been a legendary pilot during World War II, navigating treacherous bombing runs over enemy installations. Her father had commanded helicopter squadrons during Operation Desert Storm. Both had instilled in her an unshakable respect for aviation and an burning ambition to continue their legacy. Following her honorable discharge from naval service, Sophia had accepted a civilian position at Aerotech Industries, developing navigation systems for next-generation military aircraft. The compensation was exceptional. Her colleagues admired her technical expertise, but her ultimate dream remained unfulfilled: to pilot the very machines she helped engineer. For 4 years, she had applied to the prestigious Blackstone Elite Flight Academy in Seattle, the only civilian institution authorized to train pilots on the X-90 Falcon, America's most advanced fighter jet being adapted for specialized commercial operations. The academy, operated by retired Air Force General Marcus Blackstone, maintained extensive connections with military and commercial aviation sectors. Their graduates secured elite positions at major airlines and defense corporations, positions Sophia knew she deserved as much as any pilot. Each rejection letter felt like a dagger to her aspirations, but Sophia never revealed her disappointment. Instead, she saved every dollar from her engineering salary to afford the staggering $95,000 tuition fee. Weekends weren't reserved for socializing or romance. They were dedicated to small airfields throughout Washington state, accumulating over 600 flight hours across various aircraft types to strengthen her credentials. After facing rejection 3 times with applications prominently displaying her full name, she finally secured an interview by submitting her paperwork with only her initials, S. Chen. This allowed her exceptional qualifications to speak without preconceptions. What the academy administrators didn't realize, what nobody except her former commanding officer knew, was that during her naval service, Sophia had worked directly on the X-90's flight control systems. She understood the aircraft more intimately than most instructors who would attempt to teach her. Her grandmother's wings, presented to her during a final hospital visit with trembling hands pressing them into her palm, came with a whispered promise. "You'll soar higher than any of us ever dreamed, little eagle." Those weathered metal wings weren't merely a family heirloom. They represented her sacred vow to shatter the barriers that had constrained pioneering aviators before her. She kept them pinned inside her jacket, close to her heart, touching them for courage before every challenge. That morning, as Sophia had walked confidently through the Blackstone Academy's entrance, she believed her credentials would finally eliminate all doubt. Instead, she found herself standing in the parking lot, coffee staining her uniform, security guards flanking her, and the echo of masculine laughter ringing in her ears. But Sophia Chen wasn't retreating. Not today, not ever. Sometimes the most dangerous thing you can do to someone is underestimate their determination. Marcus Rivera, Sophia's former Navy colleague, pretended not to recognize her when she returned to the academy the following morning with proper documentation proving her acceptance couldn't be legally revoked immediately. "Sophia, I thought you were applying for the administrative coordinator position," he announced loudly as she entered the briefing room, drawing snickers from other instructors. Marcus had washed out of advanced flight training years earlier, settling for a ground instructor role instead. His failure had apparently fermented into bitterness toward anyone he deemed unworthy of achieving what he couldn't, especially a determined woman. Later that week at the Afterburner, the local establishment where pilots gathered to exchange stories and build camaraderie, Marcus introduced Sophia to his circle with a smirk. "This is Sophia. She actually believes she's going to master the X-90. The group erupted in laughter, beer foam spilling over glass edges. "Sweetheart, the only thing you'll be flying is economy class back home when you fail," said one man, his flight jacket decorated with patches Sophia knew he hadn't legitimately earned. She sipped her water silently, memorizing each face. One day, these same individuals would watch her soar past them, both literally and figuratively. Even in her apartment complex, there was no escape from constant skepticism. Her neighbor, Robert Sterling, a commercial airline captain with Alaska Airlines, consistently undermined her confidence during elevator encounters and mailbox conversations. "You realize the flight simulator costs more than you'll earn in a decade, right? They'll never risk letting you near it," he said while sorting through his mail. The academy doesn't want to damage equipment that expensive. When Sophia mentioned her previous experience designing similar systems, Robert countered with a condescending smile. Designing systems and operating them require completely different skill sets. That's why certain people become pilots while others become flight attendants. It's about natural capabilities. No disrespect intended, of course. His words were always wrapped in a thin veneer of neighborly concern, as if he were performing a community service by managing her expectations. The prejudice extended beyond aviation circles. At the local grocery store, Sophia wore her Blackstone Academy jacket with pride. It had cost a significant sum and represented her hard-won place in the program. A young girl, perhaps 6 or 7 years old, pointed excitedly. "Look, Mommy! She's a pilot." The mother quickly grabbed her daughter's hand and pulled her away with a disapproving glance at Sophia. "That's not realistic for girls like us, honey. Let's go find something more practical to dream about." The woman's words stung more deeply than the outright mockery from her male colleagues. This was how the cycle perpetuated itself. Dreams extinguished before they could take flight. In the arena of dreams, some battles are fought in boardrooms, others in simulators, and the most important ones in your own mind. The first week of ground school established the tone for Sophia's ordeal. She arrived early Monday morning to discover her assigned desk vandalized with cosmetic products and kitchen implements. A whisk, a wooden spoon, and an egg timer arranged precisely where her textbooks should have been. While other trainees received comprehensive study packages, Sophia's materials contained outdated manuals with crucial pages mysteriously missing. When she reported this to the administrative office, the secretary offered a sympathetic but helpless expression. "Maybe check the ladies' restroom? I heard some of the guys thought it would be amusing to hide them there." Derek Thompson, a former Marine pilot with half of Sophia's flight experience and none of her engineering expertise, was immediately designated team leader for their 5-person study group, while Sophia was relegated to note-taking duties. Nothing personal, Chen, said Instructor Captain Lewis Morgan with a thin smile. Thompson possesses the natural leadership qualities this program demands. Durrick's leadership primarily consisted of talking over Sophia whenever she offered technical insights and assigning her the administrative tasks nobody else wanted. When simulator training commenced in the second week, the disparity became even more apparent. Instructor Morgan deliberately configured Sophia's simulator to maximum difficulty, severe weather conditions, multiple system malfunctions, and unpredictable air traffic scenarios, while providing the men with standard settings. The other trainees watched, expecting her to fail spectacularly. Instead, Sophia's engineering background enabled her to diagnose each system failure and navigate the challenges with methodical precision. When she completed the exercise with a higher score than most of her male counterparts, despite the additional obstacles, Morgan announced to the class, "Chen got lucky. The computer must have malfunctioned. We'll rerun her assessment tomorrow." During emergency procedures training, when trainees were supposed to pair up for cockpit crisis protocols, male colleagues physically distanced themselves from Sophia. "If I passed out during a real emergency, I'd rather take my chances alone than have her try to save me," joked Kevin Nash, a stocky ex-military pilot from Texas. "Her hands are probably too small to reach the backup controls anyway." Instructor Captain Reed merely shrugged when Sophia pointed out she couldn't complete the partner exercises alone. "Form teams however you prefer. This isn't elementary school. I'm not assigning partners." She ended up practicing with a maintenance dummy, while other trainees called it her perfect boyfriend, silent and motionless. When systematic harassment fails to break someone, institutions often resort to more creative forms of sabotage. By the third week, the hostility had escalated from juvenile pranks to deliberate sabotage. General Blackstone himself summoned Sophia into his wood-paneled office overlooking the airfield. Behind him, framed photographs displayed him alongside military leaders and aviation pioneers, all men. "You're disrupting the cohesion of this class," he said coldly, not offering her a seat while remaining standing behind his imposing desk. "Your presence is distracting my most promising students. Perhaps you should consider transferring to our commercial aircraft program. It's less demanding, more suitable for someone with your—" He paused, eyes flicking dismissively over her frame. Constitution. When Sophia achieved a perfect score on the aerodynamics examination, 100% when the class average was 78%, Instructor Captain Reed accused her of academic dishonesty in front of the entire class. "Nobody scores this high on their first attempt, especially not." He stopped himself, but his meaning was unmistakable. Without evidence or investigation, her perfect score was reduced to a 78%. When she protested, citing specific questions and her detailed answers, Reed cut her off. "Consider yourself fortunate you're not being expelled, Chen. Accept the passing grade and move forward." During the mid-program evaluation, where trainees faced a panel of instructors reviewing their progress, Sophia alone confronted questioning about her physical and psychological fitness. "The X-90 generates G-forces that certain body types weren't designed to endure," said Dr. Harrison, the Academy's consulting physician, who hadn't bothered reviewing her spotless medical records. "Are you prepared for the physical toll this will take on your reproductive system? Many individuals find that extreme G-forces cause hormonal irregularities and potential fertility complications." No male trainee faced similar questioning about their bodily functions or future family plans. Sophia maintained her composure, answering each inappropriate question with clinical precision, refusing to provide the emotional reaction they seemed to be provoking. The harassment extended beyond academy walls into the public sphere. Aviation Insider, a popular blog among industry professionals, published an article titled "Social Engineering Reaches the Cockpit. Standards Compromised at Elite Flight Academy." Though not naming her directly, the article featured a blurred image of Sophia in the background and quoted anonymous sources claiming that traditional standards are being sacrificed for political correctness. The comment section filled with vitriol, many commenters calling for a return to the days when pilots were pilots. Worse was the video that began circulating on social media. During a particularly challenging simulator session, where instructors had programmed multiple catastrophic failures simultaneously, Sophia had struggled momentarily before regaining control of the virtual aircraft. Someone had recorded only her moments of difficulty, editing out her successful recovery and the identical struggles of male trainees facing the same scenario. The viral video, titled, "This is Why Diversity Hires Shouldn't Fly," accumulated thousands of comments, most echoing the sentiment. Would you feel safe with her piloting your aircraft? Sophia's mother called in tears after seeing it, asking if perhaps she should consider another career path. "I just hate seeing you suffer, sweetheart," she said, voicing a doubt Sophia refused to acknowledge in herself. The most insidious form of discrimination comes wrapped in policies and procedures, making it almost impossible to challenge. The Blackstone Academy Alumni Association, a powerful network of aviation industry leaders, released a statement expressing concerns about maintaining the rigorous standards that have made our program the nation's premier training facility. Several high-profile graduates, now executives at major airlines and defense contractors, threatened to withdraw financial support if politically motivated admissions policies continued to undermine the Academy's legacy of excellence. Though not explicitly targeting Sophia, everyone knew she was the only non-traditional student in the program. The message was clear: her presence was jeopardizing the Academy's standing and financial future. By the 8th week of the 12-week program, the institutional barriers became even more blatant. The Federal Aviation Administration sent a special evaluator to observe Sophia's progress after receiving an anonymous complaint about safety concerns. No other trainee received this extraordinary scrutiny. The evaluator, a former military pilot in his 60s, took excessive notes whenever Sophia made the slightest error, his pen scratching loudly against his clipboard, as if recording evidence for a future investigation. The Academy's financial office suddenly discovered an issue with Sophia's tuition payment, claiming a processing error had left her account $7,000 short, a significant sum she couldn't easily produce. They threatened to suspend her training unless she could transfer the additional funds within 48 hours, a problem never experienced by other trainees and conveniently timed just before the crucial Phase 2 evaluations. Sophia was forced to secure a high-interest emergency loan, adding financial stress to the psychological burden she already carried. Most egregiously, the Academy Board of Directors voted to implement new physical fitness standards midway through the program, standards that specifically targeted physical differences between men and women. The new requirements included minimum height and reach measurements that many women, including Sophia, barely met. Upper body strength tests were added that had little relevance to actual flying skills. "Safety is our primary concern," General Blackstone announced when implementing the changes. These standards ensure all our graduates can handle the physical demands of advanced aircraft. The fact that Sophia had already demonstrated she could handle these demands in the simulator was conveniently ignored. Through it all, Sophia persevered. She studied longer, trained harder, and maintained a professional demeanor that gave her tormentors no additional ammunition. Late at night, alone in her apartment, she would sometimes touch her grandmother's wings and whisper, "I won't let them win. Not after coming this far." The metal was smooth from decades of handling, first by her grandmother in combat, then by her father, and now by her fingers seeking connection to her family's legacy of courage. Some mornings, exhausted from studying until dawn, she questioned whether the constant battle was worth it. On those days, she'd force herself to watch the jets taking off from Boeing Field, their afterburners igniting with a promise of freedom that renewed her determination. Sometimes the most important battles are won not through confrontation, but through the courage to do what's right when nobody is watching. The final examination approached, a live flight test in the actual X-90 Falcon. Only the top 3 trainees would receive this opportunity, with the best performer earning a prestigious position with the aircraft manufacturer. Despite her superior academic performance, after the cheating accusation was reluctantly dropped, Sophia was ranked 4th, just missing the cutoff. Derek Thompson, Kevin Nash, and Marcus's protege, Anthony Cross, would be the only ones to touch the controls of the advanced aircraft they'd spent 3 months studying. Sophia's dreams seemed to be slipping away, despite her having scored higher than Anthony on every written assessment and simulator challenge. The night before the test flights, Sophia was working late in the simulator room, trying to understand what she could have done differently. The academy was nearly empty, most students and staff having gone home or out to celebrate the end of the program. Through the partially open door of the adjacent briefing room, she overheard General Blackstone and Captain Reed having an intense conversation about the X-90's critical stabilizer flaw, the exact issue she had identified and helped solve during her Navy engineering days. The manufacturer says it's within acceptable parameters, but I'm not convinced, Blackstone said, his voice unusually concerned. If they push the vector thrust above 35,000 feet while executing high-angle maneuvers, the fly-by-wire system could destabilize. Should we cancel the flights? Asked Reed. No. The test route doesn't require those specific conditions, Blackstone replied. As long as they stick to the flight plan, there's no risk. Nobody knows about this except us and the engineers. The test pilots just need to avoid vector thrust above 35,000 feet. Sophia froze, remembering Derek Thompson's boast earlier that day. Tomorrow I'm going to show everyone what this bird can really do. I've got a few surprises planned that'll make the manufacturer's test pilots look like student drivers. He had specifically mentioned high-altitude vector maneuvers as part of his planned demonstration. Derek was walking into danger, unaware of the aircraft's potentially fatal flaw. She pushed open the door, startling both men. You can't send them up without warning them about the stabilizer integration issue, she said firmly. Blackstone's face darkened. You were eavesdropping, Chen. That's grounds for immediate dismissal. I wasn't eavesdropping. I was in the simulator room, and you were speaking loudly about a safety issue that could kill one of your students. Sophia stood her ground. I helped design the X-90's flight control systems when I was in the Navy. The stabilizer isn't the primary problem. It's the integration with the fly-by-wire system. I developed a fix 3 years ago, but it was shelved because it came from a junior engineer. She paused, meeting Blackstone's eyes directly. A female one. General Blackstone's expression shifted from anger to confusion. You're that Chen. The engineer who proposed the adaptive stabilizer algorithm. The very same, Sophia confirmed, pulling out her old Navy credentials with her full security clearance information. Your top 3 trainees will be flying tomorrow without that fix. Derek Thompson has been struggling with high-altitude maneuvers in the simulator, and he's planning to attempt exactly the kind of vector thrust that could trigger the defect. Will you risk his life to protect your pride? Blackstone and Reed exchanged alarmed glances. Derek Thompson was the son of a senator who sat on the Military Appropriations Committee, a connection the Academy had cultivated carefully. If anything happened to him, your test pilots could die tomorrow unless you let me fly, Sophia stated firmly. I know the X-90 systems better than anyone here. I can demonstrate the problem and the solution in a controlled way, or you can hope Derek doesn't get ambitious and try to show off for the executives who will be watching. After an intense debate behind closed doors, Blackstone reluctantly agreed to let Sophia fly, not as a trainee, but as a technical safety consultant. You'll go up last after the others have completed their runs, he said grudgingly. But you won't be part of the competition. This is purely a safety measure. Sophia knew this was her only chance, and she accepted his terms without argument. That night, she didn't sleep. Instead, she reviewed every technical document on the X-90 she could access, refreshing her memory on the precise conditions that triggered the stabilizer issue and the exact control inputs needed to counteract it. By dawn, she was exhausted but prepared, both for her flight and for the possibility of having to save one of her tormentors from disaster. True character isn't revealed in moments of triumph, but in the split seconds when someone else's life hangs in the balance. The test day dawned crystal clear with unlimited visibility and calm winds. The manufacturer's executives arrived in sleek corporate jets, along with several military observers and aviation press. The energy was electric as the gleaming X-90 Falcon was rolled onto the tarmac, its cutting-edge design drawing appreciative murmurs from the crowd. Sophia stood apart, ignored by her classmates who were congratulating the 3 selected pilots. Kevin Nash went first, performing a solid but conservative flight that demonstrated basic handling capabilities without pushing any boundaries. He landed to polite applause, having completed the designated test route without incident. Anthony Cross followed with a slightly more adventurous performance, attempting one advanced maneuver that he executed adequately, if not elegantly. When Derek's turn came, his arrogance was evident from the moment he climbed into the cockpit. With a theatrical salute to the crowd, he began with unauthorized low-altitude passes over the airfield, drawing gasps from spectators and scowls from the manufacturer's test pilots who recognized the unnecessary risk. As his confidence grew, he radioed his intention to demonstrate the X-90's full combat capabilities, deviating from the approved flight plan to climb rapidly toward the altitude where the stabilizer flaw would become lethal. Sophia watched the telemetry on the ground control monitors, her stomach tightening as Derek approached 33,000 feet. "He's going to attempt a high-angle vector thrust," she warned Blackstone, who was now looking distinctly uncomfortable. At 35,500 feet, exactly as she had predicted, Derek initiated the maneuver that would trigger the defect. On the live video feed from the chase plane, everyone could see the moment the X-90 began to wobble unnaturally, its normally smooth flight path suddenly jerking as the fly-by-wire system and stabilizers fought each other. The aircraft began to spin uncontrollably, Derek's panicked voice crackling over the radio. "Control. I've lost. System failure. Help." Without waiting for authorization, Sophia grabbed the radio. "Derek, this is Sophia Chen. Switch to manual override and reduce thrust to 45%. Counter-rotate with left rudder, not right. The computer is giving you the wrong correction." There was a moment of terrible silence, then Derek's strained voice. "Manual override engaged. Thrust at 45%. Left rudder applied." Gradually, agonizingly, the X-90 stabilized, though it was still far from normal flight parameters. Following Sophia's calm, precise instructions, Derek managed to regain enough control to attempt a landing. His approach was erratic, but he touched down safely, the aircraft's systems damaged, but its pilot unharmed. As emergency vehicles surrounded the jet, the crowd stood in stunned silence, the near disaster having unfolded before their eyes. General Blackstone turned to Sophia, his face ashen. "Get in the backup aircraft. Show us what should have happened up there." Sometimes the most powerful statement isn't made with words, but with the poetry of perfect execution under impossible pressure. As Sophia climbed into the cockpit of the second X-90, a strange calm settled over her. This was where she belonged, not fighting for acceptance but flying. The complicated instrument panel that intimidated most pilots felt like home to her, each switch and display a familiar friend from her engineering days. She ran through the pre-flight checklist with practiced efficiency, then radioed for takeoff clearance. "Falcon 2, you are cleared for takeoff," came the controller's voice. "Standard test route only, Chen. No deviations." "Understood, Control," Sophia replied, knowing she would be doing far more than the standard route. As the powerful engines roared to life, she felt her grandmother's wings pressing against her chest through her flight suit, a talisman of both her past and her future. Unlike her male counterparts, Sophia took the X-90 through its basic paces first, demonstrating perfect control and handling at lower altitudes. She wanted everyone watching to see her mastery of fundamentals before she attempted anything more ambitious. The aircraft responded to her touch like a dance partner, each movement precisely calibrated. The radio remained silent as observers on the ground watched her flawless execution. Then, climbing steadily, Sophia announced, "Control, I'm going to demonstrate the stabilizer integration issue and its correction." Before Blackstone could object, she had already ascended past 35,000 feet, entering the danger zone where Derek had lost control. Chen returned to base immediately. Blackstone's voice crackled with alarm. "Sir, with respect, the executives and engineers need to see this. I can handle it." Without waiting for a response, Sophia deliberately triggered the exact conditions that would expose the flaw. The X-90 began to show the same instability Derek had experienced, but instead of panicking, Sophia executed the precise sequence of corrections she had developed years ago as an engineer. The jet's erratic movements smoothed out almost immediately. Instead of fighting the aircraft systems, Sophia worked with them, demonstrating both the flaw and its solution simultaneously. She put the X-90 through maneuvers no one had attempted in this aircraft, proving not just that the flaw could be managed, but that her fix allowed the jet to perform beyond its current specifications. For 15 breathtaking minutes, Sophia Chen wrote a new chapter in aviation history. The crowd below watched in awe as she demonstrated mastery of an aircraft that had nearly killed its previous pilot. When she finally brought the X-90 in for landing, her touchdown was so smooth that observers later swore the plane seemed to hover before gently kissing the runway. She climbed down from the cockpit to complete silence. Then the manufacturer's chief engineer stepped forward, his face showing a mixture of astonishment and professional respect. "That was the most impressive handling of the X-90 I've ever seen," he said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "How did you know about the stabilizer integration issue? We've had our best people working on that for years." Before Sophia could answer, another executive approached. The company's director of product development. "More importantly, how did you solve it mid-flight? Our test pilots have been struggling with that exact problem for months." Sophia stood straight, her voice clear and confident. "I'm the S. Chen who proposed the adaptive stabilizer algorithm 3 years ago while working as a Navy engineer on the X-90 project. The solution has been in your files all along, apparently gathering dust because of whose name was on it. The most profound victories aren't those that defeat enemies, but those that transform them into allies." The revelation of Sophia's engineering background and her perfect flight created an immediate shockwave through the assembled aviation community. The manufacturer's executives huddled together, speaking in urgent whispers, while occasionally glancing her way. Meanwhile, Derek Thompson was being checked by medics, his face pale and his customary arrogance replaced by the humbled look of a man who had glimpsed his own mortality. General Blackstone was cornered by reporters who had witnessed the entire incident. Sweating under the pressure of multiple microphones thrust toward him, he was forced to make a public statement acknowledging the discrimination Sophia had faced. "Today's events have revealed significant oversights in our evaluation system," he admitted stiffly. "Miss Chen's performance today wasn't just the best in this class, it was the best in the Academy's history. We will be conducting a thorough review of our admission and evaluation criteria moving forward." The manufacturer's PR team scrambled to control the narrative. But the story was already spreading through social media channels. Aviation forums filled with technical discussions about Sophia's innovative handling techniques, with professional pilots requesting video footage to study her methods. Young women across the country shared clips of her flight with hashtags like #WingsHaveNoGender and #FlyLikeAirGirl, turning Sophia into an overnight symbol of perseverance against institutional bias. Captain Reed, who had been her harshest critic throughout the program, approached her as the crowd began to disperse. His usual confidence was gone, replaced by an awkward discomfort. "I was wrong about you, Chen," he said, avoiding direct eye contact. "But more importantly, I was wrong about female pilots generally. My daughter wants to fly, and I've been discouraging her. I won't make that mistake anymore." Sophia nodded, accepting his apology without offering easy absolution. "It's not just about being wrong, Captain. It's about the damage done along the way. How many women has this academy turned away who might have been excellent pilots? How many dreams were crushed before they could take flight?" Reed had no answer, but his chastened expression suggested her words had landed. Derek Thompson, released by the medics with a clean bill of health despite his ordeal, approached Sophia with unexpected humility. His usual swagger was gone, replaced by genuine gratitude that surprised everyone who knew him. "You saved my life up there," he said simply. "I would have died if you hadn't talked me through that recovery. I don't know how to thank you properly. You can thank me by remembering this moment the next time you're tempted to judge someone by their gender rather than their abilities," Sophia replied. "And by flying with more respect for the aircraft. They're not toys for showing off. They're complex machines that deserve your full attention and respect." Later, during the hastily reorganized graduation ceremony, Derek publicly thanked Sophia in front of fellow students, instructors, and industry representatives. "I wouldn't be standing here today if not for Sophia Chen," he admitted, his voice cracking slightly. "She saved my life despite everything I said and did. That's the kind of pilot, the kind of person I aspire to be." True leaders don't just break through barriers. They ensure those barriers can never be rebuilt. The Blackstone Academy Alumni Association, sensing the shifting winds, quickly announced a new scholarship for underrepresented aviators, naming it in honor of Sophia's grandmother, the Alina Chen Memorial Scholarship for Excellence in Aviation. The Federal Aviation Administration evaluator who had scrutinized her so intensely during her training approached with his business card, recommending her for a special advisory position on flight safety standards. "We need your perspective in the regulatory framework," he said. "Your experience could help us prevent others from facing the same barriers." Most significantly, the manufacturer's executives offered Sophia not just the promised position that should have gone to the competition winner, but a dual role as test pilot and lead engineer for the next generation of the X-90 program, with a salary triple what they had offered the competition winner. "Your technical knowledge combined with your flying skills make you uniquely qualified," the chief operating officer explained. "Frankly, we'd be fools not to hire you after what we saw today." At the formal academy graduation ceremony the following week, General Blackstone approached Sophia with her grandmother's pilot wings, which had been confiscated when she was escorted out that first day. "These belong to you," he said, his military bearing softened by genuine respect. "You've earned them twice over, as an engineer and as a pilot." As he pinned them to her uniform, applause broke out spontaneously among the gathered graduates and guests, a sound that would have been unimaginable just days earlier. Rather than simply accepting her victory, Sophia used her newfound platform to advocate for systemic changes in aviation training. She worked with the academy to revise their admission criteria, focusing on measurable skills rather than traditional backgrounds. She insisted that the instructor who had recorded her humiliation on the first day be removed from teaching positions, arguing that anyone who would deliberately humiliate a student had no place in education. When offered the chance to expel the students who had harassed her most severely, however, Sophia declined. "They need to learn from this experience, not be shielded from its consequences," she explained to a surprised General Blackstone. "Let them graduate knowing they were wrong, and carry that knowledge into their careers. It will make them better pilots and better people than if you simply removed them from the program." The most powerful revolutions begin with a single person refusing to accept impossible as an answer. The story of Sophia Chen and her X-90 flight spread throughout the aviation industry, reaching far beyond the borders of Seattle. Newspaper headlines proclaimed, Female engineer pilot saves lives, exposes flight flaw, and shatters glass ceiling at elite flight academy. Television news programs featured interviews with Sophia, where she spoke not of revenge or vindication, but of the need for merit-based evaluation in aviation. "The sky doesn't discriminate," she told one interviewer from her new office overlooking the manufacturer's test facility in Arizona. "Neither should we." The impact of her stand rippled through the industry. Other flight academies reviewed their admission policies, finding similar biases that had gone unchallenged for decades. Major airlines began active recruitment of female pilots, realizing they had been overlooking a significant talent pool. Senator Thompson, Derek's father, even invited Sophia to testify before a congressional committee on gender discrimination in technical fields, her story serving as a powerful example of both the problem and its solution. 6 months later, Sophia led the first all-female test flight of the improved X-90, now incorporating her stabilizer fix as standard in all models. 4 jets roared overhead in perfect formation, each piloted by a woman who had previously been told she didn't belong in a cockpit. As they performed a precision flyover, a group of young girls watched from the observation deck of the Blackstone Academy, where Sophia now taught a weekend course for aspiring female pilots. Their faces tilted skyward, eyes tracking the aircraft with dreams taking shape behind their determined expressions. In the control room, General Blackstone watched with newfound respect as Sophia's calm voice came through the radio, guiding her team through complex maneuvers that were once deemed physically impossible for female pilots. The same executives who had dismissed her algorithm years earlier now quoted her technical papers in their presentations and proudly advertised her involvement in their marketing materials. Later that afternoon, as Sophia pinned honorary pilot wings on a teenage girl at the Academy's youth program, she found herself reflecting on the journey that had brought her here. "The sky doesn't care about your gender," she told the aspiring young pilot, whose eyes shone with the same determination Sophia had carried through her darkest days. "It only respects skill, knowledge, and the courage to face your fears, including the fear of those who say you don't belong." She ran her finger over her grandmother's wings, now permanently affixed to her flight suit, alongside her official pilot's insignia. Both represented barriers overcome, though in very different ways. True strength isn't shown by pushing others down to lift yourself up, she continued, speaking now to all the young women gathered around her. It's revealed when you rise above the barriers others place in your path and then reach back to help the next person climb. As the sun set behind the airfield, bathing the Academy in golden light, Sophia looked to the horizon where new challenges and opportunities awaited. The path she had forged would make the journey easier for those who followed, just as her grandmother and father had done for her in their own ways. "Some battles aren't won with force or fury," she said softly, "but with excellence that cannot be denied." 2 years later, standing before a packed auditorium of young aviators. "If you were in my position," Sophia asked her audience, "would you have been so forgiving? Would you have chosen to help those who tried to clip your wings, or would you have ensured they never flew again?" The question hung in the air like a challenge, forcing everyone to examine their own capacity for grace under pressure. A young woman in the front row raised her hand. "Why did you choose forgiveness over revenge?" Sophia smiled, touching the worn wings on her uniform. "Because revenge would have made me just like them. Excellence, on the other hand, made them want to become like me." She paused, watching understanding dawn on faces throughout the auditorium. "The strongest steel isn't forged in comfort. It's tempered in the hottest fires. Every obstacle they placed in my path didn't weaken me. It made me unbreakable. Every door they slammed shut taught me to build my own entrances. Every time they said impossible, I heard not yet attempted." The audience was captivated, hanging on every word. "Today, 3 of my former classmates work under my supervision. The instructor who tried to humiliate me now teaches courses based on my training methods. The academy that once escorted me out now displays my portrait in their hall of honor. That's not revenge. That's transformation. She gestured toward the large windows overlooking the airfield, where the next generation of pilots was taking their first solo flights. But the real victory isn't in their changed minds. It's in her. Sophia pointed to a young girl watching from the observation deck, her eyes filled with possibility. And her. It's in every young woman who now sees a pilot's uniform and thinks, that could be me, instead of, that's not for people like me. The applause was thunderous, but Sophia wasn't finished. The question isn't whether you'll face barriers. You will. The question is whether you'll let those barriers define your limits or become the foundation for your launch pad. She looked directly into the eyes of the young woman scattered throughout the audience. So I ask you again, when your moment comes, and it will come, will you choose to break the cycle of exclusion, or will you perpetuate it? Will you use your success to build walls or bridges? As the presentation ended and students filed out, many lingered to speak with Sophia personally. Each conversation was a seed planted, a dream encouraged, a future aviator inspired to reach higher than they had ever thought possible. Later that evening, as Sophia reviewed applications for her mentorship program, she found herself smiling at the diversity of names and backgrounds represented. Her story had traveled far beyond aviation circles, inspiring women in engineering, medicine, law, and countless other fields where they had been told they didn't belong. Her phone buzzed with a text from her former classmate Derek, now a safety instructor at a major airline. Just watched your speech online. My daughter starts flight training next month. Thank you for showing us all what courage really looks like. Sophia set down her phone and walked to her office window, watching the evening flights depart into a sky painted with possibilities. Her grandmother's voice seemed to whisper on the wind. You flew higher than any of us ever dreamed, little eagle. But Sophia knew the truth. She hadn't just flown higher. She had shown countless others that the sky had no ceiling, only endless blue waiting to be explored. The greatest victory wasn't in proving she belonged in the cockpit. It was in ensuring that future generations would never have to prove it again. In the distance, another plane climbed toward the stars, its lights twinkling like a promise that tomorrow would bring new dreamers ready to soar beyond the limits others had tried to impose. And Sophia Chen, once told she didn't belong in the sky, now spent her days teaching others that the only limits that truly matter are the ones we accept for ourselves. The sky, after all, belongs to anyone brave enough to claim it. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and become a part of our Everyday Life Stories community. Where are you watching from? Drop a comment below. We love hearing from our amazing viewers around the world.